One of the biggest struggles for new fish keepers and more experienced fish keepers alike is the fight of keeping your aquarium water as clear as possible. Some people have a lot more success than others, and for a few good reasons. First of all, we all need to understand that there can be very different causes of cloudy or discolored water, and that the different causes need different treatments that are according to the cause. I'm going to go into detail about what each cause is, how to prevent it, and how to get rid of it if it has already occurred. The first case of non-clear water I'm going to talk about is perhaps the most common with beginner fish keepers. This is when you are just cycling your tank and the nitrogen cycle starts to kick in. If your tank looks hazy and has a whitish gray looking hue, kind of milky, you are lucky. This is not a big problem at all to deal with. In fact, it is not a problem. The cloudiness that has distorted your aquarium clarity is just bacteria colonizing. And before this scares you, it is beneficial bacteria, so don't worry. Not only do you want this bacteria, but you need this bacteria in your aquarium. The bacteria will colonize in your water column for about a week until it settles down on the side of the tank, in your filter, on decorations, on your substrate, basically everywhere you can imagine. This bacteria is the bacteria that is able to convert deadly ammonia into a more tolerable nitrate for your fish. It is an essential part of the nitrogen cycle, and the cloudiness normally takes place late into the cycle when establishing a tank. After a week to 2 months of keeping fish in the tank, you can expect the bacteria to cloud the water, sometimes more than other times, depending on your bioload. The only downside to this is that it is basically unavoidable, and for a week or so, your tank will not look very good. If your tank has been running for over a few months now, and you have not changed the bioload, it is a little bit more scary when the water turns milky in color. This can be a result of exterior chemicals getting into the tank. You want to deal with this as soon as possible. It can be dealt with by doing 40 to 60% water changes every other day until it goes away. If it looks really bad, I would suggest doing water changes every day. You don't want to do too big of a water change, however, because it might stress the fish out too much and their immune system will weaken and the chemicals can kill them. Another thing that can cause cloudy water is when you put in new unrinsed sand or decorations. However, that only lasts a day depending on particle size. Obviously, the bigger particle, the less time that it lasts because it weighs down. To prevent this, just make sure you lightly rinse your substrate or decorations before putting it into your aquarium. Another very common color that your aquarium water can turn is yellow or orange. This is generally also an easy fix, but it requires more work. Yellowing of the water is generally when there is an excessive amount of dissolved organics in the water, such as leftover food and fish waste. It normally takes a duration of time to slowly get more and more yellow, but it is easy to prevent. A consistent routine of maintenance on your aquarium will do the trick. Many people do water changes on their aquarium, but normally do not do it correctly. When you take water out, don't just scoop, replace, and call it a day. It is necessary to mix up the substrate and clean or replace filter media. If you do not clean the substrate, toxic gases build up and can cause a lot of harm to your fish. Also, a lot of dissolved organic matter can be sitting in the substrate, rotting, and slowly causing the yellowish tint. When you clean your filter media, rinse in tank water, not too hot, not too cold, in an outside bowl to clean off the debris, but to keep the beneficial bacteria living. Too hot or too cold temperature can kill the bacteria. If you stay consistent and clean all of these things once a week, you will have absolutely no issues. Now, another common tank coloration is green water. If your tank water is turning green, it is also a relatively easy problem to resolve. This is algae normally. Do the following. Get a pleco out of Cichlids or in any other algae feeder. Do water changes because algae thrives off of nitrates, and when you do water changes, it takes nitrates out of the tank. And if I also suggest, if your tank mates allow, your fish allow, then add plants, because the plants will outcompete the algae for nitrates and will actually kill the algae. Another way to keep your tank crystal clear to prevent the yellowing, green, or milky color is to use carbon. You can do this in basically any tank and it will have an incredible result. However, it is generally not recommended with plants because the carbon attracts the dissolved organic matter or the nitrates and will actually attach to them. And the reason you don't want it with plants is because the plants need the nitrates to grow. The carbon will take out the nitrates and leave a crystal clear water column, and works for any other tank that does not have plants. I recommend rinsing your carbon with the water changes in tank water and replacing every month or so depending on your bioload. And linked in the description below, I have an article going into detail talking about water clarity and some different circumstances. They mention some stuff that I mention, and they also mention some additional things. So I definitely recommend checking it out. And I'm going to end the video with that. If you have any other questions or solutions that I missed, let me know in the comments below. Also, if you have ever had one of these problems and resolved it in a different way, let me know. To stay up to date with my channel and to make sure you do not miss any of my future content, be sure to subscribe by clicking the circle in the center of the screen. I picked a few videos out that I think you will enjoy, and if you want to watch them, click either of the rectangles on the side of the screen.